rather three questions that come up so far from the first three speeches. First of all, is it the UN's responsibility to go into a place that so-called Secretary General has defined is undergoing genocide? First of all. Secondly, is it the Secretary General's responsibility to make decisions? And third of all, is this in effect, or are these decisions made the best for the global community? Now, let me first of all clear up three misconceptions that the government seems to have in context of today's debate. First of all, the purpose of the UN. Ladies and gentlemen, let me put forth to you that the purpose of the UN was set up as a global body to make global decisions which affect the world and to effectively, first of all, provide humanitarian aid to countries which have either basically trying to have gone through disasters and are trying to recover from it. Secondly, to provide a certain level of peacekeeping to basically allow societies to function on a basic level, ladies and gentlemen, and basically which is basically not the purpose of the UN which we are trying to push today. The purpose of the UN which we are trying to push today alongside government is basically a force, a lethal force, to push into a country and to use force to stop any violence that goes on within that country. And we believe, ladies and gentlemen, that is not the purpose of the UN. The purpose of the UN is to maintain the peace. The purpose of the UN is to do this, first of all, by diplomatic manners, and second of all, if all else fails, at this very time, the worst that it has ever come to, it has only come to sanctions, and that is the most that the UN could decide on, because of the fact that everybody in this in the United Nations has a different view. Everybody in the United Nations has a different vested interest in the global initiative, and that's why we believe that such massive decisions to push a force into a country to dictate what a country should do against the genocide is basically something that the UN is not supposed to do. Now, before I move on, yes ma'am.
Do you think that is because all of these previous methods have not worked and the genocide is still continuing? We think that is why we need to implement a new policy here today.
Now, they come and talk to us about the fact that genocide is continuing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, genocide basically is a theory that has been, it basically is something that, I mean, we are looking back into the past and regretting something that like that has happened. Now, we are talking about the fact that these days, when we're talking about countries in the global community, they have the sense and basically they have the responsibility to not do something stupid like this. And we believe that they are looking into the past and they are pulling up old problems, which basically something that, as far as we do not look forward to, we believe will not happen on such a scale as Rwanda, and will not happen again on such a scale as the Jewish Holocaust. Sit down, and so now, basically, next, moving on to the role of the Secretary General. As my first speaker has put up, the Secretary General is basically a face. The Secretary General is basically a spokesperson for the Security Council and is elected by the General Assembly, which means, ladies and gentlemen, that all five permanent member countries must agree, which is basically China, the United States, Russia, France, and Britain. Now, when we're talking about these five, in effect, we already see a paradox because all five of them tend not to agree on any global issue, let alone trying to push a country into to fight against the genocide, ladies and gentlemen. We see that these five countries have very different interests and therefore cannot agree, which is simply why we are talking about the fact that sanctions is as far as any UN cause has gone to. Sit down, sir. Now, now let me move on to my point on the importance of making global decisions. Now, as I put forth earlier in my speech, the UN is a global body which basically gives a voice and gives a vote to every country, big or small, which comes within its scope of influence. Now, we are talking about the fact that small countries, even if they have just joined into the General Assembly, they have a vote, and this vote is significant, and this vote is representative of this country's position in the global community. This vote is representative of this country's voice and this country's opinion. It sends a message to the UN, which basically is the reason why this UN has lasted for so long, as opposed to the previous League of Nations, which didn't give equal voting to each of the member countries. Now we say that this vote is the reason why each country feels like they are important in the global community. This is the vote, is the reason why each country feels like they have an ability to affect change in the global arena. And we say, ladies and gentlemen, that Given the Secretary General's exposure, given the Secretary General's capacity, we say that, ladies and gentlemen, he does not represent a country, he does not represent, he basically is a person who has opinions, we agree. He is a person who has ideas, he is a person who is exposed to going into countries, to talk to leaders, but ladies and gentlemen, we believe that this is all he should do, and we believe that this is all he is basically responsible for. Because to put the ideas and to put the opinions on a person, not even talking about a layman on the street, a person in power even, ladies and gentlemen, we say that this is something that we cannot subject to any single person. We believe, ladies and gentlemen, the importance of global decisions makes it such that this person's voice is smaller than that of the entire world. We make it such that this person's voice basically is one voice out of many, and this person's voice contributes but does not cloud out everyone else's decisions. Now, we are talking about the fact that even in the United States of America, the most liberal democracy that we have in the world, President Barack Obama only has the ability to have ideas. He only has the ability to effect certain things to change, and then the decision is subject to the Senate, the decision is subject to Congress. And we believe, ladies and gentlemen, that considering even in the most liberal democracy, this person does not have absolute power of dictatorship, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that the Secretary General, even more so in a society where a large number of global leaders are Western liberal democracies, we believe that even more so, this person should not have such a power. And we believe that that should this person decide one day that a genocide is happening in A or B country, that the Security Council is in fact obligated, which means they must do it, that they must send all of their member countries' forces into that country to stop something happening like that. We believe, ladies and gentlemen, that this is not only too much power to put into the hands of one person, that it is a global decision, and there is a decision that should be made by the entire community of the Security Council. And that is why we believe, ladies and gentlemen, that this motion must fall.